how long can I stay in Guatemala? Well, if you are a U.S. citizen like myself and you're looking to stay in Guatemala for a time, you want to visit, you want to go to Guatemala City, you want to go to Lake Atelan, you want to go to Antigua, well, they have a very generous tourist visa of 90 days. So if you want to know more about that, let's get into it. For U.S. citizens, you don't need a visa for tourist stays up to 90 days in Guatemala, but you do need to hold a valid passport for entry, and you need to complete the entry and exit form. Visitors are granted a 90-day renewable stay, which is part of the CA4 agreement, allowing free movement between Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua. So this is an incredibly generous option that U.S. citizens have, and I highly recommend people taking advantage of it. A lot of people are a little bit scared of going to Guatemala because they've heard things about the past and how it used to be very dangerous, but I have to say, it's not dangerous. It's really not. Definitely, Guatemala City gets a bad rap for being one of the more dangerous places, and people don't want to go there because they do have zones that are not available for tourists, and those places can be kind of dangerous for locals. But there are many safe zones, as they call them, in the city, and you can be in those places. I actually decided to stay in Guatemala City itself. I never went to Antigua or Lake Atelan, which is the more ideal tourist destinations because it's really beautiful. It's lush land. The locals are very nice and generous and welcoming. So I definitely, can say you can see tons and tons of videos online about going to Lake Atelan and Antigua, and I recommend it if you want to go there. But I also say if you're into city life, don't miss out on Guatemala City. It has a lot to offer, and I had a fantastic time. I ended up staying 90 days, and in fact, I actually stayed more than 90 days. I ended up overstaying my visa by about 3 or 4 days, and that was an experience in terms of trying to figure out the process for that. I'll make a video about how that process went and what I went through going through immigration, overstaying my visa in Guatemala. It was a story. But like I said, for the United States, if you are coming in, it's a visa-free entry, so no visa is required for tourists if you're there for 90 days or less. Passport obviously needs to be valid at the time of entry, and they recommend that you have at least 6 months left on the visa before coming in. You do need to fill out that electronic form. It's just basically like a customs declaration form, and then your length of stay, like I said, has to be less than 90 days. The CA4 agreement, which is an agreement between the Central American 4 countries, which is El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, and Guatemala, allow you to come into the country for up to 90 days without a visa. There are currency restrictions. You're not allowed to come in with up to $10,000 in cash. You got to have less than that, or you got to declare it. So just make sure you're not bringing in loads of money. They're going to think that you are a trafficker. Important considerations, maybe the border runs. While you can leave and re-enter to renew the 90-day visa, leaving to a nearby country like Honduras and El Salvador does not always reset the clock due to the CA4 agreement, and doing so to live in the country permanently is often discouraged. So they're saying don't do border runs. It's probably not going to work out for you. It's best to just visit the country for 90 days, go do something else for several months, and then come back. Don't try to skirt this as a way to live in the country long term. And then always have proof that you have onward travel, because the flight that you're on will probably end up asking you about it. They'll probably ask you, hey, can you show us proof that you're going to be leaving this country, so that they know that you're not going to overstay your visa. Although, like I said, it's not really a visa, but essentially it is. It's a tourist visa. But yeah, coming into the CA4 countries, Guatemala specifically, was very, very easy. Dealing with the government is relatively easy, although I would say when I did have to overstay my visa and go and talk to the government about my visa and what I could do about that, it was a little bit confusing, to be honest, because I didn't speak Spanish. My wife speaks a little bit of Spanish, and if she wasn't there, I would have been very, very confused about the process and how things work. It's a little confusing if you don't speak Spanish. A lot of people don't speak English in Guatemala, so that's just something to take note. If you're going to be, especially if you're going to be working in Guatemala City, or if you're going to be interacting with the immigration department, it's best if you know some Spanish. My experience as a Black person in Guatemala, I would say there's not a lot of Black people in Guatemala, at least in Guatemala City. When I was there, I could probably count on my hand how many Black people I saw, and half of those people were clearly really Central American black. Like maybe they're from Dominican Republic, maybe they're from Honduras, but they were definitely black Central Americans. I did see a couple Americans from like USA who were black, but not as many as I would have imagined. There's actually just not that many people visiting other than, I would say, white people from the United States. We saw a lot of backpackers who were at hostels around the corner from where we lived, but most of the people we saw were native Guatemalans. We ended up living in Zone 4. It's more of a middle class or upper class neighborhood, kind of hip. There's lots of really big buildings. We lived in this really large building up on like the 20-something floor, had a great view of the area. There was a grocery store on the bottom floor. There was like a nail salon, hair salon, couple of different restaurants, a bakery, a Starbucks. Like there were so many amenities in that little area that we were. And then sometimes we would just walk around our neighborhood to go to get food. And I would definitely be the only one there. I definitely stick out. People would stare at me, but not in a negative way, just in a more curious way. Like, oh, you're here. I did not expect you to be here kind of way, which I thought was pretty funny. Obviously, me and my wife are interracial. So she is a half Mexican American and a mix of a whole bunch of other things. And so she looks racially ambiguous, but she's brown. And interracial couples are just not something you see a lot of when you travel abroad in our experience. And so we definitely got a lot of looks, I think, because we are together. And also I'm shorter than her. So not only are we interracial, she's taller than me and she's lighter skinned than me, and we both have piercings. So I already know we kind of look, we stand out a bit. We are both also queer. We're part of the LGBTQ plus community, although I think that we read as a straight couple, but still, that is just something to know about our experience. But again, nothing bad happened to us while we were there. Everyone was incredibly nice. No one ever treated us badly. No one ever kind of shorted us on our money or anything like that. We had a really great experience. We traveled to a couple of other zones, Cayela, Zone 1. Like we went around a little bit in the city and to the places that we were allowed, and didn't see any crime. You know, people were like, oh, is it safe? Is it safe there? I'm like, I never saw any crime. It was very safe. I will note, though, that there is a lot of security at all around in all of the businesses, even at gas stations. And people, the people who are in charge of security will have shotguns. They will have automatic weapons like AK-47 type weapons on them. And so they're probably, you know, because of the history of the country, there was violence. And this is their way of deterring that violence. And so in our experience, yeah, it was a little maybe unsettling to see guards with that much artillery, but at the same time, nothing negative happened. Take that with what you will, you know. But yeah, my experience was really positive, and that's why I always recommend to people to check it out. Of course, you don't have to go to Guatemala City. You can go to Lake Atalan, you can go to Antigua and have that kind of experience, but I do recommend it as a place to visit, especially if you are a person of color. And if you are interested in checking out Guatemala, you want to go for a visit, a vacation, you want to stay there for an extended amount of time, I am a lifestyle architect. I help you design and build your house, which is your life. If you need help with logistics about traveling abroad, moving abroad, if you need help with your finances to get yourself right so that you can later on attain your goals of moving abroad, I do help with those kind of services. I do have resources in the description, have links. You can go to my website. I also have free services and resources as well, so feel free to check those out. And if you're not interested in those services, but you're interested in my journey, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see y'all in the next one. Peace.